Kunstenaar Mark Rothko koesterde de wens om de schilderkunst even aangrijpend te maken als de muziek en de dichtkunst.
This is Christopher Rothko. I'm Mark Rothko's son, and I have been told by many people who've known both of us that we had similar voices. Born Dvinsk, Latvia, 1903, migrated to Portland, Oregon, 1913. You don't know what it is to be a Jewish kid dressed in a suit from Dvinsk, not an American suit, traveling across America and not able to speak English. I was never able to forgive this transplantation to a land where I never felt entirely at home.
Building?
I know it's a landmark.
Do you know that Mark Rothko was living here?
No, I didn't.
Do you know his name?
No. I just know the people who live in there.
They are kind of your friends, or?
Yeah, they look out for me. You know, they always look out for me.
When I was a younger man, art was a lonely thing. No galleries, no collectors, no critics, no money. Yet it was a golden time, for then we had nothing to lose and a vision to gain. Today it is not quite the same. It is a time of tons of verbiage, activity, and consumption. Which condition is better for the world at large? I will not venture to discuss. But I do know that many who are driven to this life are desperately searching for those pockets of silence where they can root and grow.
Everything about Rothko is about changes, about voyagers, about travels. You know, first of all, the geographical travels. He was born in Russia in 1907, in the Russian Empire, in a city called Dvinsk, now Daugavpils, now in Latvia. And at the age of 10, his family moved to the United States. Then he moved all over the United States, and he came back many times to Europe. So basically, all those geographical travels, I mean, made him what he was.
I became a painter because I wanted to raise painting to the level of poignancy of music and poetry. The struggle is beyond painting, not with painting.
This is a Pelham Bay Park map. This is 77th Street.
Myths are the symbols of man's primitive fears and motivations, no matter in which land or what time, changing only in detail, never in substance. I sense a deep affinity, the same feeling, the same broad expanses of somber color.
So there is in himself, a tension between the new world in which he lives, the abstraction, the abstract art that he's going to be part of, but also this original myth from Europe that he originates from. And when he goes back to the Greeks and the Greek myths, and he starts painting again mythological. So that's a way of grounding his own art in the basics of European culture and European history. From then on, he's going to be able to evolve and find his own language. He's such an articulate intellectual, such an articulate scholar, that it's not, there's no wonder that today Rothko is talking to us much better than anybody else.
welke deze is. Moet ik even kijken of ik dan het goede zaalnummer erbij heb. 43264. 43264.
Ik heb de tentoonstelling op 2 manieren ingedeeld. Dat heeft deels ermee te maken dat ik in de voorbereiding heel vaak er tegenaan gelopen ben dat mensen zeggen, nou, Rothko, dat is emotie. En ik heb normaal niet zo'n benadering. Dus mijn eerste benadering is altijd, ik wil iets begrijpen. En dat sluit emotie niet uit. Integendeel, dat grijpt in elkaar. Ik denk dat juist de kunst de plek is waar die dingen in elkaar grijpen. En ja, de meeste mensen denken dat dat dingen zijn die tegenstrijdig zijn. Hè? Die niet met elkaar overeen te brengen zijn. Ik vind dus juist in de kunst dat ze in elkaar grijpen. En dat heb ik geprobeerd met de installatie duidelijk te maken. Door een, heel plat gezegd, ja, als je rechtdoor loopt, dan kun je iets begrijpen. Als je liever iets emotioneel wilt ervaren, dan sla je linksaf.
Art is an adventure into an unknown world, which can be explored only by those willing to take the risks. I'm not an abstractionist. I'm not interested in the relationship of color or form or anything else. I'm interested only in expressing basic human emotions, tragedy, ecstasy, doom, and so on. And the fact that lots of people break down and cry when confronted with my pictures shows that I can communicate those basic human emotions. The people who weep before my pictures are having the same religious experience I had when I painted them. And if you are moved only by their color, then you miss the point. I quarrel with surrealist and abstract art only as one quarrels with his father and mother, recognizing the inevitability and functions of my roots, but insistent upon my dissensions. I am both them and a new integral completely independent of them.
Die 3 schilderijen hier, zo op mijn hoofd 46, 48, 49. Daar zie je dus hoe een heel ingewikkelde, chaotische vormenmengsel, waar je eigenlijk nauwelijks, daar kun je niets in herkennen. Dat is gewoon, is ook niet abstract, is niet expressionistisch, is niet geometrisch. Wat is het eigenlijk? Hè? Wolken, heel onbestemd. Dan wordt het steeds meer uitgekristalliseerd hier naartoe. Hè? Totdat je daar naar iets komt is een soort reduceren van de beeldtaal om ze duidelijker te maken. Hè? Hij wil natuurlijk direct communiceren. En dit is te complex voor communicatie. Dit is helder.
I'm not a mystic, a prophet perhaps, but I don't prophesy woes to come. I just paint the woes already here.
The height is wonderful, isn't it? He must have loved that. We are wondering if this is Mark Rothko's paint. I don't know, it's hard to say, isn't it? I mean, you can't say definitively. I'm sure there have been other painters in here. It certainly has a feel of it, but it seems like a lot of it right there. It doesn't seem... I think there's no reason to think there isn't some of Rothko's paint, but one can't say with any surety. I don't even know what it tells us that much, really. I mean, we know he had the paintings on pulleys. We know they were on the stretched. We know they were on the wall. There's a lot of white. I don't think that... Too much white. Yeah. I don't know. A floor is a history. I mean, it tells so much about what's happened in this space as opposed to who necessarily was in the space. It was more about the space, I think, than the painter. In that regard, it's kind of wonderful. Yeah. Sadness of life, sir.
Excuse me?
What is the sadness of life?
Not having a mother. You know? Mom left me when I was 2. My father left me when I was 12. You know? That's what hurts. You know? When I see family, you know, sometimes I cry because I wish that was me. You know? It hurts real bad. But that's life, you know? In America, you have accidental babies, you have tricked babies, sex offender babies, abused babies, adopted babies, mommy babies, and daddy's babies. You know? I don't know what ground I'm on, you know.
Wat kost deze?
Deze weet ik niet aan mijn hoofd. Dus, dat is een, zeg maar, dat is uit een periode, dat is een overgangsperiode naar de classical stijl, de laatste step, 49. En die zijn meestal zo in de orde van 8, 9 miljoen. Maar er is al eentje bij, die heeft 0 meer.
Waar is die?
Die is niet uitgepakt. Nou, als je dus op de achterkant kijkt hoe dat doek gestapeld is, hè? Ja, dat is helemaal heel fragiel. En je ziet ook dat dat niet echt een echte professionele schilder was. Hè? Dat is iemand dat was vooral een filosoof en die heeft doek een kleur gebruikt om zijn filosofische gedachten vorm te geven. Hè?
Waar kijk jij nou naar?
Ja, gewoon de eerste indruk of je niet al gelijk gekke dingen ziet. Ik ken het schilderij niet, maar als je gewoon nu kijkt, dan zie je niet dat er een grote kras op zit of iets anders. En dan komt dadelijk de courier, die gaat hem nog een keer helemaal gedetailleerd bekijken. En dan tekenen we samen af dat het oké is. Ja, weet ik.
The recipe for a work of art, its ingredients, how to make it, the formula. Number 1, there must be a clear preoccupation with death. Number 2, sensuality. It is a lustful relationship to things that exist. Number 3, tension, either conflict or curbed desire. Number 4, irony. This is a modern ingredient. Number 5, wit and play, for the human element. Number 6, the ephemeral and chance, also for the human element. And number 7, hope. 10%, just enough to make the tragic concept more endurable. I think this is an example of my father's great love of irony. I think if we take him too seriously, we are in trouble.
Painting for him was a way to address the people. It was a social statement. It was a way of finding his identity in the American society. It was a way of stating that the artist has a role in society. It was not the case in the United States. The United States was a country where the artist was very much marginalized. So Rothko decided to step in and to assert what he had to say through his art.
After I had been at work for some time, I realized that I was much influenced, subconsciously, by Michelangelo's walls in the staircase of the Medicean library in Florence. He achieved just the kind of feeling I'm after. He makes the viewers feel that they are trapped in a room where all the doors and windows are bricked up, so that all they can do is butt their heads forever to the wall.
Je zou bijna kunnen zeggen dat Rothko in eerste instantie streefde hij dus naar dat 1-op-1 confrontatie. En daar liet hij de ruimte daaromheen buiten beschouwing, min of meer. Het ging echt om de fysieke, lichamelijke dialoog met het doek. Maar ja, een lichaam is in een ruimte en die kun je nooit echt buiten beschouwing laten. En toen hij dan inderdaad een opdracht kreeg om een serie schilderijen te maken voor een restaurant in Manhattan, een luxe restaurant. Toen confronteerde dat hem met een nieuwe situatie. En hij vond het enerzijds zeer boeiend om een hele ruimte te bespelen. Dat vond hij dan opeens de hele ruimte bij te betrekken. En aan de andere kant had hij twijfels of dat luxe restaurant de juiste ruimte was. Hij was dus daar lange tijd mee aan het ploeteren en kwam niet uit. Hij had een break nodig, hij moest eruit en is dan met zijn vrouw en zijn dochter naar Italië gereisd. Hij heeft daar een aantal plekken bezocht. En daar heb je dan per definitie kunst op locatie die daar specifiek voor gemaakt is. Met name monnikencellen in het klooster San Marco in Florence. Hij is daar geweest. En ik vind altijd dat die situatie daar, een cel, een kleine ruimte, voor de monnik. En aan de kopse wand zo'n schitterend fresco van Fra Angelico, alleen maar gemaakt voor die monnik. En die kan dan daarmee in relatie treden. Dat is een perfecte anticipatie op wat Rothko eigenlijk met zijn schilderijen wilde. En toen hij terugkwam, zag hij de schrijnende verschil met dat luxe restaurant. Daar werd het opeens helder voor hem. Denk ik dat dat de reden is waarom hij die opdracht dan terug heeft gegeven. En dat is dan de beroemde, gefaalde Seagram-opdracht. Maar die een eerste stap was van een hele ontwikkeling van werken die hij maakte voor specifieke locaties.
Since my pictures are large, colorful, and unframed, and since museum walls are usually immense and formidable, there is the danger that the pictures relate themselves as decorative areas to the wall. This would be a distortion of their meaning, since the pictures are intimate and intense and have been painted in a scale of normal living rather than an institutional scale.
De vriendenvereniging van de Harvard University kreeg een nieuw clubhuis. Hij maakte daarvan 5 schilderijen. Want hij wilde laten zien dat het toch kon. Met de schilderijen een ruimte maken. Een locatie, een geheiligde locatie maken. Zonder dat die schilderijen tot de decoratie gedegradeerd worden. En daar heeft hij dus ook aan gewerkt. En heeft specifiek voor deze ruimte, voor een ruimte, wat schilderijen gemaakt. Was ook een ontvangstruimte. Alleen daar was het probleem dat de doeken waren enorm groot, wandvullend, daarom murals, worden ze murals genoemd. En de overige wanden, dat waren gewoon ramen, gigantische ramen. En hij had een pigment gebruikt wat zeer lichtgevoelig was. En die had dus de hele dag de zon opstaan. En een aantal jaren na het overlijden van Rothko moesten die doeken verwijderd worden. Dus in die zin is het ook gefaald. Dus die installatie bestaat niet meer.
When I went to Europe and saw the old masters, I was involved with the credibility of the drama. Would Christ on the cross, if he opened his eyes, believe the spectators? I think that small pictures since the Renaissance are like novels. Large pictures are like dramas in which one participates in a direct way.
Painting is in fact a subject. Here he's almost a sculpture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what Rembrandt did, and especially this whole part, but this is blurred.
Yeah.
This is abstract painting,
Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
this. I mean, this color red,
Yeah.
it's soutine.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, of course, paint. Yeah, the face is very nice and very. But he did many paintings. But this.
Yeah. So basically,
this has never been done in
so
painting.
basically, it's not so much the faces which he's interested in, but the figures
Yes.
and the experimentation of light.
Here we look at
Yeah.
an invention in
Yeah.
art,
And
then Rothko comes close.
But Rothko wrote in 1940
Yeah.
that Rembrandt was interested in the plasticity of light.
Here.
Yeah. And Rothko reinvented himself in 1940 when he wrote a book called The Artist's Reality, where he's looking at all the figures. He stops painting for 1 whole year and he writes a book. And in this book he goes through all the big figures of the past, philosophers, writers, musicians and artists. And he talks about Rembrandt a lot, especially about this painting and the plasticity of light.
Rembrandt discovered that his patrons were not interested in his plastic preoccupations with light, and that they preferred the obvious illustrative gifts of his contemporaries and followers. Rembrandt and Rothko. Rothko would say to a friend, then pause, smile, and say, Rothko and Rembrandt. I'm going to add one from the family. This is not written anywhere, but this is what he said in the house. Mozart, Matisse, and Mark. That's the follow-up to Rothko and Rembrandt. No, he didn't turn it around, as far as I know. I don't think anyone could go before Mozart. When you looked at Matisse's Red Studio, you became that color. You became totally saturated with it. Art necessarily reflects the artist's understanding of his times. We have wiped the slate clean. We start anew, a new land. We've got to forget what the old masters did.
Nou, de derde installatie is dus een opdracht van een verzamelaarspaar uit Houston, de Menils. Er was al heel veel sprake van dat Rothko eigenlijk het beste in een kapel zou tot zijn recht komen. Die hebben hem een opdracht gegeven dat er dus een kapel specifiek voor dit doeleinde gebouwd werd. En daar had hij de volledige controle over. En dat is dan de beroemde Rothko Chapel in Houston. Hij had specifiek een atelier gehuurd. Zo groot was dat hij een mock-up kon maken van de chapel. Dat hij echt in dezelfde ruimtelijke condities schilderde zoals het straks gepresenteerd zou worden.
I wanted to paint my own size. I wanted to recognize myself in my work. Then I realized it's completed.
His project was not painting paintings. His project was to create environments. His project was to reinvent a relationship between the public and his art. And how would it be? It would be like theater. He wanted the viewer to step into the painting. He wanted the paintings to be not positioned low, but high but low. He wanted them not to be on a white wall, but on an off-white wall. He wanted them not to be lighted, but very in a shadow. And he didn't want one painting, but a whole room. He wanted the audience to be surrounded by the art. Why? Because what he aimed at was not consumption of art. He wanted a dialogue, an interaction, a spiritual dimension, something much more complex than, than watching a painting. He wanted, basically, he thought that art could transform the public.
If I must place my trust somewhere, I would invest it in the psyche of sensitive observers who are free of the conventions of understanding. I would have no apprehensions about the use they would make of these pictures for the needs of their own spirits. For if there is both need and spirit, there is bound to be a real transaction.
How is it to restore the Rothko?
Well, it's complicated. I think to restore any work of art is complicated. For a non-representational work of art, an abstract work of art, it's even more difficult because we don't have any representational clues to go by. So we are very much in need of understanding the artist's manipulation of material for visual effect. And that takes time. That's not something that you immediately see when you look at a work of art. So in the case of Rothko, because it's so sophisticated, it's so many layers, it's so much building up of paint over time, it takes that amount of time as well to understand what the artist was trying to achieve.
Do you think that the paintings we see in Houston, that we see them now with the light Rothko wishes?
I think that's a hard question to answer. I would say that the question of the light is the overriding question that haunts those of us concerned with the Rothko Chapel. It never seemed to be right. And so it's something that will always be on our minds of how to improve it, resolve it, make peace with it in some way. So I can't say that you're seeing the paintings exactly the way Rothko would have intended. But what I can say is that you will have a very personal and meditative, I think, experience in the chapel from the light. The light changes in Houston, and well, everywhere it changes, but because it's all natural light, if you sit there, you'll see the clouds go by, you will feel the change of light, and the paintings respond in that way.
I would like to say to those who think of my pictures as serene that I have imprisoned the most utter violence in every inch of their surface.
Brian Robertson describes a moment in the Whitechapel Gallery with Rothko, together with Rothko when he left the place. He said, "My strongest personal memory is of leaving the Whitechapel Gallery with Rothko late one winter afternoon when the daylight had practically gone. He asked me to switch all the lights off everywhere. And suddenly, Rothko's color made its own light. The effect, once the retina had adjusted itself, was unforgettable. Smoldering and blazing and glowing softly from the walls. Color in the darkness. We stood there a long time, and I wished everyone could have seen the world Rothko had made in those perfect conditions, radiating its own energy and uncorrupted by artifice or the marketplace." I think it's wonderful.
It was a custom to equate the blackness and the sharpness of the Rothko Chapel paintings with the artist's despair. I never felt that. I never did, and I still don't. I truly believe that the paintings, well, there are two things, but I truly believe that the paintings were a major step forward for him technically. In eliminating color, the one feature for which he was best known, and he had his classic paintings he was a master of, he kind of upped the bar and went into creating paintings without a lot of color. He also was so well known, as you know, in his classic work for these wonderful diaphanous edges around his forms. And in the chapel paintings, he does these very tight, straight, taped even forms, edges. He's just going into something very different, and I think that's a very hard thing to do. I think it was a natural progression of where he was going, but I do not think, and I wish it would be dispelled forever, this association with that, with his final death. I do not think that makes sense at all.
There is more power in telling little than in telling all. Silence is so accurate. The color of my voice? What color? I don't know, I think dark brown. His voice was a little softer, I think, a little rounder around the edges. He has a little more red in it.
Do you know this building?
I know it's a landmark.
Do you know that Mark Rothko was living here?
No, I didn't.
Do you know his name?
No. I just know the people who live in there.
They are kind of your friends, or?
Yeah, they look out for me. They always look out for me.
When I was a younger man, art was a lonely thing. No galleries, no collectors, no critics, no money. Yet it was a golden time, for then we had nothing to lose and a vision to gain. Today it is not quite the same. It is a time of tons of verbiage, activity, and consumption. Which condition is better for the world at large? I will not venture to discuss. But I do know that many who are driven to this life are desperately searching for those pockets of silence where they can root and grow.
Everything about Rothko is about changes, about voyageurs, about travels. You know, first of all, the geographical travels. He was born in Russia in 1907, in the Russian Empire, in a city called Dvinsk, now Daugavpils, now in Latvia. And at the age of 10, his family moved to the United States. Then he moved all over the United States, and he came back many times to Europe. So basically, all those geographical travels, made him what he was.
I became a painter because I wanted to raise painting to the level of poignancy of music and poetry.
Kunstenaar Mark Rothko koesterde de wens om de schilderkunst even aangrijpend te maken als de muziek en de dichtkunst.
This is Christopher Rothko. I'm Mark Rothko's son. And I have been told by many people who've known both of us that we had similar voices. Born Dvinsk, Latvia, 1903. Migrated to Portland, Oregon, 1913. You don't know what it is to be a Jewish kid dressed in a suit from Dvinsk, not an American suit, traveling across America and not able to speak English. I was never able to forgive this transplantation to a land where I never felt entirely at home. The The struggle is beyond painting, not with painting.
This is the Pelham Bay Park map. This is 77th Street.
Myths are the symbols of man's primitive fears and motivations, no matter in which land or what time, changing only in detail, never in substance.